Hi, and welcome to Experience Points by University XP. On Experience Points, we explore different ways we can learn from games. I'm your host, Dave Ang from Games-Based Learning by University XP. Find out more by going to universityxp.com. On today's episode, we'll learn from Gijs van Bilsen. Gijs van Bilsen turns imagination into action through live action role playing. As a keynote speaker and founder of the Live Action Learning Institute, he designs immersive LARP based experiences for organizations, universities, governments, and the United Nations, helping people step into new roles and perspectives. Because imagination isn't just a gift, it's a trainable skill that sparks curiosity, deepens empathy, and drives real world growth. Dice, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dave. And thank you for taking the difficult step of pronouncing my name correctly. Let's go with the English version. You can just call me guys, as in, hey guys, and I will listen to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for being on the show. I do try to pronounce everyone's names to the best of my ability. So I appreciate you being here, spending your time sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. And I'm just glad to have you here.
Thank you. Me too.
All right. So with that being said, I wanted to jump into our very first question because we talked a lot about this in our pre-episode recording meeting and just overall your work with imagination as a skill. When we discussed this originally, you said you framed imagination as something people can actively train, often through live action role playing, LARPs, LARP. So what does that actually look like in practice beyond just quote unquote being creative?
Well, imagination is basically just practicing something before you actually do it. That is what imagination is. There was this really interesting scientific research that showed that if you imagine that you are weightlifting, so not actually doing it, just like in your head, imagining it, that you actually do become stronger. You are able to lift more after just imagining that you can that you are weightlifting. And that's what we do. We really help people imagine the skills that they want to learn. Those skills that you have to experience to actually learn, like listening or being extroverted or being a good leader. And that's how we use imagination as a skill. And in our keynote, that's called Imagine the Future, we do just that. Like we use that for people to make different versions of themselves. But if we give a longer training, then we can also go a bit into LARPing. We create fictional but recognizable context that acts as a safe space for people to find those skills and work with them. So, for example, let me give you two examples. One is from our deluxe 4-day leadership training, and this was a manager, and she wanted to become more spontaneous. And she thought that was going to be like, oh no, then I have to act as if I'm very extroverted, and it's going to cost me so much energy. And please, can I have a room by myself, because it's going to cost me so much energy that I don't know if I can do that for so long. And actually, when she did try that out, and she got a character that she played in our training, and the character was very spontaneous and impulsive. She halfway through, she went up to us and says, "This is amazing! It is not costing me any energy whatsoever, because I'm just flowing with whatever comes up into my mind, and I'm not busy with checking in with everyone all of the time, which is what I normally do." And in this way, she imagined a different character that was able to do what she found difficult. But because she did it a bit longer and in a safe space, not the actual world, but a fictional world to recreate it, she found how she could do it in a way that helped her. And the other one is an interesting guy as well. He did a shorter thing with us, like a 1 hour demo. And he said, "I'm a sales professional, but also I'm also very introverted. I have to do sales as part of my job, but I'm very introverted. And I want to see how my extroverted version of my charming, creative, extroverted version of myself, how that looks." And at one point, we were playing a neighborhood planning committee. They were planning the neighborhood party. That was the fictional story, very recognizable. At one point, he was standing in the bar because we had a location with actual bar and an actual supermarket and da da da. And he was just like juggling with balls that he found somewhere. And he was entertaining everyone. And he said, "Yes, this is my version, my extroverted version. It's called Robbie the Entertainer."
Mm-hmm.
And what he now does, every time that he drives to a sales meeting, the last thing he puts up in his car before he gets out and goes to the meeting is "Let Me Entertain You" by Robbie Williams. And with that energy, he then goes in and wows his clients.
Wow.
And
Uh,
these are just two things, like two ways that we say, like, that we have seen people like use their imagination to practice something and find it within themselves, how they could do it.
And I think that is really interesting and exciting. And I wanted to ask you the follow-up question in that I know
Yeah,
we led off with the question about imagination and developing
yeah,
that. And really it's
yeah.
about like with gameplay, with like the magic circle of existing in this world that is not real. It has its own rules and you can set your own expectations. But what I wanted to know was, do you feel that a lot of the people you've worked with in the past are really surprised by how much they can accomplish if they just imagine a little bit, if they just embrace play?
Yeah, it's very amazing. We've actually I had one keynote recently, and that was the second year I did that.
Hmm.
And one person came up to me afterwards, and she was actually in tears, saying like you've changed my life because I have found like the bravery within me that I know it's there because I use that also in a LARP sometimes,
Hmm.
and I know I can be brave, but I never thought I could take that bravery with me into my everyday life. And
Hmm.
while she was saying that and how it changed her life, she just like started crying, and I was like, wow, okay, wow.
Wow. That's a really powerful story. I appreciate you sharing with me. And I think that this whole aspect of imagination, interactivity, and play is really useful. And I know that when you reached out to me originally, we were talking about LARPing and live action role playing. But during our pre-interview meeting, we actually went through a demo. And I think that a lot of the audience is actually going to get a lot out of this because in past episodes of Experience Points, we talked about the work that you do. But in this
Mhm.
instance, we're actually going to go through a demo. So
Yeah.
most people associate LARPs, live action role playing, with like games and hobbies, which is adequate and I think accurate. But what makes it viable or risky in professional environments? And then can you walk us through a short real-time exercise like we did in our pre-interview meeting to show us how this actually works in practice?
Yes, let's do that. So first of all, about like what LARP is and what people associate it with. Most people know LARP as a hobby to X out mainly like fantasy settings,
Hmm.
elves and wizards in the forest. But what LARP actually is it's an improvised immersive play without an audience.
Hmm.
And you can do that in any kind of setting. Like you can actually LARP an office where and you
Hmm.
can LARP everyday occurrences. And it's as simple as acting out a situation without worrying about the audience.
Hmm.
So we normally, sometimes I even say like the LARPs that we do for professionally, they're probably boring. We don't go off as slay dragons. We don't step into galactic cruisers.
Hmm.
It might just look like an everyday office. Of course, we make it interesting and we make sure that something happens, but it's recognizable for the people there.
Hmm.
Because what we want to learn is for them to see and find that version of themselves. So that's also like the short exercise that we can boil LARP into. And actually,
Hmm.
we don't call it LARP when we go into corporate settings or governmental settings. We call it live action learning.
Hmm.
And then we say like, oh, it's action learning, but we will do it live.
Hmm.
And for people who know LARP, of course they go like live action. Hey, I learned from
Hmm.
live action role play, but
Hmm.
it's just like a cheeky way of you. We are serious, very serious about
Right.
play.
Hmm.
You don't want to scare away people, but at the same time, we do want like people to have a really nice experience. So
Right.
let's do that together with you,
Yeah,
and the
let's do it.
audience who's listening can do this with you. So I'm going to
Hmm.
ask you a couple of questions,
Okay.
and you're going to answer for you.
Hmm.
But for people listening, they can answer that for themselves, and then
Hmm.
see how that works for them.
Okay.
Because basically we boiled learning from LARP, the essence of it, we boiled it down to four words: think, shape, feel, and
Hmm.
do. And we're going to see, Dave, to find a version of you
Hmm.
that has a quality that you know that you have inside of you somewhere,
Hmm.
but that for you might be difficult to get out like at any given time. That's so something that you would like to have more of. What
Hmm.
quality would that be?
Okay. For this, I would say that I had to really test myself this past weekend. It's to be more gregarious in social settings. So I would say that naturally I'm an introverted person, so it takes a lot of
Hmm.
effort for me to be talkative and gregarious and really talk about me and what I do and my work and my interest in like a social environment. So I want to do that.
Nice. So we're
Hmm.
going to work on the gregarious, on the talkative Dave.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we'll see how what the talkative Dave looks like. And anyone listening, answer that question for you. And whenever Dave and I talk about the talkative versions, you just exchange that for like the version that you want to learn from yourself.
Hmm. Okay.
So first up, Dave, then I'd like you to think back, and maybe it was even this weekend, I
Hmm.
should say. I would like you to think back to a time, a situation where you did manage, where you were gregarious, where you're talkative, where you just you found yourself just jabbering on and felt really good about that. Can
Hmm.
you take yourself back, think back at a time where you were doing that?
Hmm. Yep, I'm thinking about it. Do you want me to describe it right now?
Yes, for the podcast. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm thinking back to a time when I was at the beach with my wife
Hmm.
and some of her close friends, and they were asking me about at the time I was working in higher education. So they were asking me
Hmm.
about the state of higher education in the US, and it was something I worked in. I cared very passionately about and how the university system and college system in the United States was set up. And I was able to just talk at length. And they asked me follow-up questions about their own kids and preparing them for university and college when they're ready for it. And I was just, I would say I was in a flow state. I was able to answer their
Yeah,
questions succinctly, and I was able to answer it empathetically and provide insight on things that they didn't even know that they asked for.
nice.
Mhm.
Oh, I can just imagine. Also, just the environment around, like at the beach, and then these people listening to you, and you
Mhm.
feeling that. Oh yes, I'm like my words are reaching someone, and I see their eyes lighting up.
Mhm.
And what did it look like? Because this was the first part, like think. So
Mhm.
let's go to the second word, which is
Mhm.
shape.
Mhm.
How were you standing, sitting, moving? What shapes did your body have? What posture did you have in that time?
Well, since we were at the beach at the time, it was all the adults. The kids were playing in the water, but all of the adults
Hmm.
were sitting around in like a half circle. And I was
Hmm.
in a beach chair, and it's very low. But at the
Hmm.
same time, since everyone else was at the beach chair and it was very low, it was a very hot day, I remember. So we had beach umbrellas, but we didn't have enough for all of the adults. We were huddled together very close in a half circle. And then someone asked me a question about higher education, and I started answering it. And then other people asked me follow-up questions, and I was able to. I remember I was in the middle of the half circle, so I was able to answer the first person's question, but realize that other people were also interested in my answer. So I was trying to make eye contact with everyone else in the group that was interested in hearing my answer. And I remember being able to answer the very first question very fluidly and succinctly, and then answer the next follow-up question the same way, and then the next follow-up question the same way. And I just remember being on a roll for several minutes
Nice,
where I felt really in the zone in that flow state.
nice. So you were sitting, and what I hear is that you made eye contact with everyone. I'm just
Hmm.
trying to see, like, okay, so what is the physical action that you're going through, which is also maybe like turning
Hmm.
towards the different people and seeing them. And if you would have to summon that right now, if you have to like see how would I sit right now? I can't
Hmm.
see you,
Hmm.
so you have to describe it a bit. How would you sit right now if you are the talkative version of yourself?
I would not sit with my back on the chair because I remember specifically when I was getting really interested in the conversation, I would kind of intertwine my fingers in both my hands in front of me and rest them in between my knees and lean forward a little bit. And through leaning forward, I would be speaking directly to the person that might have asked me the last question, but at the same time, because I was also aware that other people were listening, I would just take the time to pivot my head and make eye contact briefly, but meaningfully with other people in our group that were also listening. So it would be me sitting with my hands clasped together, leaning forward slightly, but making sure that I am maintaining eye contact regularly with everyone else in the group.
Oh, wonderful,
Mhm.
wonderful. Now you have already you have several things in here that help you, like the leaning forward. That's usually a sign of being engaged,
Mhm.
and then having your hands in front of you means like oh, so you're connecting and you have them free to use when you're talking, and then again with the eye contact. So that is the
Mhm.
shape that you can that you now have from that situation and from trying it on now. That the next time that you want to be talkative, you can see, hey, can I put my body into that shape, or
Mhm.
and use that then to find that talkative version of yourselves. And again, for
Mhm.
the people listening, if it's not talkative, then try out. If it's relaxed, maybe it is
Mhm.
feeling your back in the chair. And if it's being powerful, maybe you have like a bit of fists instead of hands. So it's whatever you want for your quality, how you shape your own body.
Right.
So then we move on to the third one, and I think you talked a bit around already about the state that you were in. But
Mhm.
how did it feel? Because the shaping is what happens outside and what we can see, but what happened inside of you, what others can't see, but what you definitely felt.
I felt like it was a beach day, so it was very hot. We were underneath all of the umbrellas, but I felt like a different type of warmth. Like normally when you're outside and it's a hot summer day, you may be sweating because it's just very
Hmm.
hot. But for me, I specifically remember like there was a warmth in me, but it was like a warmth in the like my upper chest area, like the kind of warmth that you get when you are, like talking for an extended period of time. And I was talking, but it was like a
Yeah,
good warmth. It was something that like I get an opportunity right now to talk about something that I'm very passionate about and knowledgeable about, and I just felt very good. It made me want to keep talking more about it as people were
yeah.
asking me more follow-up questions.
Yeah, so that warmth would even have been there on like if it was a cold, stormy night. Like
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
beach had nothing to do with it. You
Yeah.
that is like that feeling inside of you.
Hmm.
That's what you got.
Hmm.
So that's also what you can look for. And sometimes the feeling is like a result of you doing the thing, but usually there's also like a feeling that you can look for to help you do the thing, to make it easier. So try and look for that feeling and shape yourself right now into that posture.
Hmm.
And then we can go to the final thing, which is do. So we have think, shape, feel, and do. And the final thing is do. And have one little activity,
Hmm.
which can be maybe a sentence or a movement, or maybe it's I speak a bit louder. That like one little activity that you can agree on yourself that will help you be that talkative version of yourself. What would that one little activity be? The one thing you do?
I would say that it would be now that I think about it, and we have it as part of this discussion, this role play, is the aspect of leaning forward, of
Yeah.
really connecting with other people, not just listening, not just waiting for my turn to speak, but really connecting and trying to determine, like what is the um, I've asked this question before, like what is the reason for our conversation? Like, is it just to gather information? Is it just to, fulfill an awkward silence? But in this case, it is to, honestly and actively answer some person's question, be able to share some of my knowledge, and being able to be like a significant and useful resource for someone else.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, that really that connection.
Hmm.
That is the action, and maybe like um, just as a word, connection is a bit vague. But when I
Hmm.
hear you speak, you have like for you it is an activity of the
Hmm.
connection, and you even have like questions that you ask to make that easier.
Hmm.
So now that you have those four things, like you can think back on that moment and summon that moment again. You know how to shape your posture,
Hmm.
you know how to feel, like to find that warmth inside of you, and then think, oh yes, I have it. And you know that you can connect, and maybe even you have a couple of questions that you can use in order to really connect with people.
Hmm.
And if you combine all four of those, then you have the talkative, the gregarious version of Dave. Then you
Hmm.
have talkative Dave. And by practicing that a couple of times, it will become easier and easier to recognize it and to go into it. to summon that anytime that you need it. When you are in a room and you feel yourself maybe like going back a bit towards the wall and just, no, let me be a wallflower. And you got like, no, I don't want to be a wallflower today.
Mm-hmm.
Today I will be the talkative Dave. Then you know, oh, I can summon it in this way and lean forward, connect with people, feel the warmth, and start talking how you want to be. And that's basically how we try and like condense being a different character,
Mm-hmm.
what you do in LARP.
Mm-hmm.
Not even if you want to do be a different character, but just like shape that version of yourself, that
Mm-hmm.
version, that talkative version of you, by thinking, shaping, feeling, and doing, and
I
then
see.
summoning it whatever you need it.
I see. Great. Thank you for sharing. And I appreciate the demo. This is the second time that Guys and I have run through this demo. This second one was a little bit different from the first one.
Hmm.
I chose a different situation here, but one thing that I wanted to bring up, and I'm going to go into our third and last question here, is we
Yeah.
discussed this before, and I'd written about this when I was talking about role playing games, but it's the concept of bleed, character bleed, and I also want to talk a little bit about skepticism for some people that
Yeah.
may be new to this process. So, can you explain the concept of bleed? Because I've talked about it, but I'd like to hear more about it from your perspective. The concept of bleed in LARP and why it matters for learning development. And, for someone who's skeptical of this approach, what's the simplest way to demonstrate this value? Like, we've gone through the exercise, but if you had to demonstrate its value to someone else and couldn't go through the exercise, what would you do in
Hmm.
order to show that?
Yeah. Yeah, because the bleed, for those not familiar, it's a term used for the overflowing of elements between a character that you're playing and the player, so between you as a person.
Hmm.
Basically, what it says, if you play a character and you play that in a certain way, then some of that will seep through into your own behavior or personality. And that might not last for very long, but if you played a character for a couple of days, which is usually what happens at a LARP, it
Hmm.
can stick around for a bit.
Hmm.
And actually, we use this on purpose when we do live action learning. Basically, what you've just done in the exercise is you made a talkative Dave, which is somehow a character, but we like to call it as like the version of yourself
Hmm.
that you have shaped. And by doing that, you are able to summon it. But also, it leads through to you then, because it's very close to you. So the bleed between a version of you and you is very close by. And the bleed between a character that you are playing and you, that's a bit further removed,
Hmm.
which gives you the opportunity or alibi, as we say, to try out different stuff that is something that you normally wouldn't do. Then see how that works for you. And then that spills over or flows over into you. And basically, this also occurs in everyday life.
Hmm.
For example, if you have children, like in the morning, they're not listening to you, like they're making a mess of their breakfast, and they have to like get out and go to school, and you have to be a bit strict, And there's one of those mornings, and come on, huh? And then maybe like you arrive at work a bit later when they finally like you got them out of school, and you might find yourself feeling a bit more directive in your leadership style than you would otherwise have,
Hmm.
because basically your role of that morning of being the strict parent is bleeding over in your role of being a leader at your work. And what we do is we try to really design for this effect and
Hmm.
for you to purposely and positively shape those versions of you
Hmm.
that you can then have bleed over into who you actually want to be.
Hmm.
And for those skeptical, um, first of all, we don't mind people being skeptical. Also, in our trainings, like you're very welcome to be skeptical. You're also very welcome to like observe. But we give so many people ways of people to um, observe a bit if they want. That in the end, everybody participates because they know. Oh, if I want to, I can step out.
Hmm.
There's room for my skepticism,
Hmm.
which is because I feel that the trainer gives me room for my skepticism. I will also give myself permission to try this thing out. And
Hmm.
usually, when they try that out, the skepticism vanishes.
Hmm.
But I can give you one example, which I normally do is to share like why I even started the Live Action Learning Institute, and that's
Hmm.
because I played a LARP, and within that LARP, I found a different source of energy within me. I'm very
Hmm.
enthusiastic, as you hopefully have become aware
Hmm.
as a listener, that this
Hmm.
is my energy. But I played a LARP, and in that LARP, I played Kai, which was a very calm, powerful, collected character.
Hmm.
He was like this. And by playing him for a weekend, I found out within myself, was very surprised that I had like that version inside of me. And a couple of weeks later, I was hiking, and I was hiking in the Swiss Alps.
Hmm.
And we were hiking, and we were in a gorge, like a deep valley. Um, and I encountered a bridge that was held up by one cable,
Hmm.
and on the bottom was, like the see-through metal resters. So
Hmm.
you could just see 300 meters into the deep. And it had, again, one cable. It was hanging on one cable. I'm
Hmm.
I'm afraid of heights. And maybe some people even listening to this might already feel that.
Hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to get over this, but also like it was a 2.5 hour trip back along like slippery slopes up like the hill. So I couldn't go back. I
Hmm.
had to cross that bridge. I was like, okay, I just ran like screaming to the other side, and I was standing there, and oh, I was just panting, and then I thought, you know what? Wait, I had that Kai, and I had it calm,
Hmm.
collective power. So I summoned that character, and I walked back onto that bridge, and I stood there for 20 minutes, just standing there, even looking down, and I was like, I, this is amazing. I've done something that was just made for entertainment. It was just a weekend with a couple of friends who did a LARP. Nothing educational about it. But through that experience, I have now gotten the tools to combat my own fear of heights. And now imagine what if we actually like start thinking about it in an educational way, for professional development.
Hmm.
How strong would that be? And that's usually what I tell to skeptical people. Like, I, you don't have to use it to get rid of your fear of heights, but you might just use it to be a better listener if you
Hmm.
want that, or to be a bit more positive if you want that.
Hmm.
And usually that's what gets them. You know what? I want to try. I want to see.
All right. Wow. Thank you guys for sharing. I realize that, we may not always be able to have like a 50% improvement or 100% improvement, but if we can just use the tools that we have available and people that we know, such as yourself, to just improve a little bit, I think it's worth it. So thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Appreciate for being here.
So, guys, thank you for joining us today. Where can people go to find out more about you and your work online?
Yes, so if you want to learn more about the Live Action Learning Institute, go to liveactionlearning.com, and that's live with a V. And if you're interested in booking me as a keynote speaker about imagining the future, where I bring positivity, and we do this exercise also with the entire group, then go to Gijs van Bilsen, so GijsvanBilsen.com, and that's where you find me as a keynote speaker.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. I will make sure to include all those links in the references and show notes. So, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I hope you found this episode useful. If you'd like to learn more, then a great place to start is with my free course on gamification. You can sign up for it at universityxp.com/gamification. You can also get a full transcript of this episode, including links to references in the description or show notes. Thanks for joining us. Again, I'm your host, Dave Ang from Gamespace Learning by University XP. On Experience Points, we explore different ways we can learn from games. So if you like this episode, please consider commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Subscribing is absolutely free and ensures that you'll get the next episode of Experience Points delivered directly to you. I'd also love it if you took some time to rate the show. We live to lift others with learning, so if you found this episode useful, consider sharing it with someone who could also benefit. Also, make sure to visit University XP online at universityxp.com. University XP is also on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, and LinkedIn as University XP. Also, feel free to email me anytime. My email address is dave@universityxp.com. Game on.